Hello, welcome to our last midweek meditation for July 2020. Yes, it's almost August. The schools that did manage to restart after the lockdown have now broken up for the summer, and for many people this is usually the time when they are just hanging on before being able to get away on holiday. But of course this year it's all different. Even those who did have a holiday booked have in many cases found them snatched away at the last minute, as travel restrictions have been brought back in. And all that means that what is a key word in the psalm I'll read in a moment will have a particular resonance for many people. That word is rest. It's a key theme in Psalm 62. Let me read it now. Truly, my soul finds rest in God. My salvation comes from him. Truly, he is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I shall never be shaken. How long will you assault me? Would all of you throw me down, this leaning wall, this tottering fence? Surely they intend to topple me from my lofty place. They take delight in lies. With their mouths they bless, but in their hearts they curse. Yes, my soul, find rest in God. My hope comes from him. Truly, he is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I shall not be shaken. My salvation and my honour depend on God. He is my mighty rock, my refuge. Trust in him at all times, you people. Pour out your hearts to him, for God is our refuge. Surely the low-born are but a breath. The high-born are but a lie. If weighed on a balance, they are nothing. Together they are only a breath. Do not trust in extortion or put vain hope in stolen goods. Though your riches increase, do not set your heart on them. One thing God has spoken. Two things I have heard. Power belongs to you, God. And with you, Lord, is unfailing love. And you reward everyone according to what they have done. Truly, my soul finds rest. Rest. Isn't that a wonderful word? We live in such a busy society. For many people, work is a constant pressure. But then when work is finished, well, the creation pattern was work and rest, work and rest. Just as God rested on the seventh day, so his blueprint for our lives was work into rest, work into rest. But 21st century Western society has replaced rest with leisure. Life is now work and leisure, which is very different. And it means that rest can be in seriously short supply. Rest. Another problem is that because our lives are so busy, when we do get a bit of time to rest, what happens? Our minds go into overdrive, thinking about all the things that are going on in our lives. Often even my sleep isn't restful, because I wake up at some unearthly hour of the night, and my mind is so full of stuff that I can't get back to sleep again. So what's the answer? Truly, my soul finds rest in God. The rest that we all crave can only be found in trusting God, in a relationship with him. Augustine said, "You have made us for yourselves, and our hearts are restless till they find their rest in you." For David, finding rest must have been just as much of a problem as it is for us, probably worse, because there were times in his life when David was being hounded, where he was facing the constant threat of death. And although we don't know exactly when this psalm was written, we do know of times where David's thoughts must have been, "How long will you assault me? Would all of you throw me down?" Those words fit David's experience. For a long time he was on the run from Saul, fleeing from one place to another because nowhere was safe for him, except one place. Truly my soul finds rest in God. Truly he is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I shall never be shaken. He couldn't find rest in the places he ran to, but he could find rest in God. Now, obviously, David didn't mean that as long as he trusted God, all his problems went away. But despite all that, he did trust God. And knowing the Lord was the most important thing in his life. And that meant that even though the problems were still there, which they most certainly were, he could still know rest. And today, of course, mostly the enemy we face isn't other people. At the moment, the big enemy is this virus. But it can still feel as though we're under attack. Anxiety about getting ill, or about family, or about what will happen to our job. I guess that many of us have felt like this leaning wall, this tottering fence. We feel battered. But whatever is going on around you, you can know that your future is secure in God's hands. That doesn't mean that physical sufferings are insignificant. They weren't for David and they aren't for us. But it does mean that even when surrounded by troubles, we can still trust God. And it is only as we do that that we can have any hope of rest. My soul finds rest in God alone. So first, we can find rest when we trust the Lord despite the presence of enemies, even as hidden an enemy as COVID-19. But there's a second issue in this psalm. My salvation and my honour depend on God. My honour, my significance in life depends on God, not on what other people say about me. You see, one of the biggest challenges to our rest is often in trying to live up to other people's expectations, trying to please other people. Sometimes it can just seem impossible, can't it? But David knows that what matters is not what other people think of him, but what the Lord thinks of him. And I know it's so much easier said than done. I know that often other people make demands of us that it's very difficult to ignore. And I know there's something inside me which wants to be appreciated and which will therefore try to always do what people want me to. But one element of trusting the Lord is making sure that we are trying to please him rather than other people, because he will never make demands on us that we can't fulfill. It's much the same as something Jesus said. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Trusting God means entrusting yourself to his purposes for your life, rather than other people's. Do what he wants you to do, and you will find rest. And finally, one thing God has spoken. Two things have I heard. Power belongs to you, and with you, Lord, is unfailing love. That sums up what we've seen so far. God is powerful. He is stronger than anyone or anything that is against us. And God is loving. His call on our lives will not crush us. But then, you will reward each person according to what they have done. And whilst it might be good to know that God will pay back my enemies, do I really want to be rewarded for what I have done? What about those times when I've been more concerned about pleasing others than pleasing the Lord? What about the things that I've done which I know are wrong? You see, ultimately, there has only ever been one person who could feel confident about God rewarding him for what he had done. And that's the Lord Jesus. And knowing that God will reward me for what I've done, well, actually, the only thing I can do is to turn to Jesus, find forgiveness in him, to admit that truly he is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I shall never be shaken. The world is full of things that can destroy our rest. External enemies like COVID-19, internal enemies like the desire to please other people, or even trying to think that we have to prove ourselves to God in some way. But here's the antidote. God is powerful, stronger than any enemy we might face, whether enemies outside us or the enemies of temptation inside us. God is loving. He wants the best for you. And in Jesus, God has given us a way, in fact the only way, of finding rest. Truly, my soul finds rest in God.